Hi, I'm Tyler, and this is the Stock Scores Market Minutes for November 20th, 2017. This week's topic, let your winners win, then my regular weekly market analysis, and finally, the trade of the week, a swing trade on EKSO. All traders lose on some traders, and therefore the winners have to pay for the losers. It's the big winners where you earn your profit. If a trade is working, let it work. Remember, you're going to have some small losers, you're going to have some small winners, and they're going to balance each other out. And it's the big winners where you make those profits. Sell stocks when they give you a sell signal, not when your fear tells you to sell. We have this fear that our winner will turn into a loser. But if there's no sell signal, there's no reason to exit. Now, some stocks will make big moves. Just let it happen. Here's this week's analysis on the S&P 500. Get out the line drawing tool, and you can see narrow volatility in the month of October, and all of a sudden we've had lots more volatility. That shows investors are uncertain, and that really just turned on October 19th. Now, right in this moment, we've got kind of a sideways action. We had some falling tops, and we got some rising bottoms. The market is really showing a lot of uncertainty, and that uncertainty could lead to a break in either direction. Given that it's still in an upward trend, it's more likely to continue higher, but you got to be careful. There is the upward trend line for the long-term trend, and then we've got a wider line like that. This is basically the upward sloping channel that the market is in until we start breaking down through these lower boundaries of that channel. Remain a bull. For now, remain a bull because the market is strong. Moving along to the Russell 2000, we had a great move to the upside, and then we went into pullback mode. We got a little bit oversold. Now we're snapping back, but we haven't broken pullback mode. And so until we can break that line, I'm not going to get too energetic with the small caps, but I do like what I saw at the end of last week. That could bode well for the small caps going into next week. On the TSX, similar situation. Nice upward trend line broken, and now we're bouncing around in this sideways range. We haven't really broken through any support, but we're not in that upward momentum stage any longer. Looking at the longer term chart, you can see that we're in this very narrow range. We really are due for a little bit of a pullback. That would be healthy. No sign of it yet, but it makes sense that we're going to see it. TSX Venture, generally in a shallow upward trend. That shows that there's not a lot of excitement. We get to the top of the channel, we pull back. Top of the channel, pull back. Top of the channel, pull back. Top of the channel, pull back. We bounced on Friday, so we're probably going to go back to the top of the channel. It's not a lot of enthusiasm, but these stocks are generally doing well. Treasury market. Bond market tells us a lot about interest rates, and we get a lot of chop here, which means that investors are uncertain. Interest rates remain low. If this goes higher, interest rates go down. But for now, it doesn't necessarily look like it's going to go higher. I think it's just going to oscillate in that sideways range for the next little while. US dollar got a little oversold. See how I can draw that as a curve? That means that there was emotion, some fear in selling the US dollar. It bounced, and it's now been trending higher, but what it's done lately is come back to the top of the trend line and got stuck. Does that mean we move to new lows? Possibly. More than likely, it forms a rising bottom and then tries to break that downward trend line. Now, that weakness in the US dollar this week was good for things like gold. You can see gold jumped up. What is gold doing? It's in the upward sloping channel. It's got some gains to make to get to the top of the channel, which is going to correspond with the highs set last summer. I expect we'll get there. That's not considerable upside. It looks like these stocks will go higher in the next few weeks, but it doesn't have a bunch of upside where you want to take long-term bets on gold just yet. On the oil market, we've been doing pretty well. If we looked at this on a daily chart, you'd see that it's been trending higher, and in fact on Friday, with that weakness in the US dollar, it went up, oil, but it's coming up to that resistance zone, It's been in this long-term sideways range for some time. And so it's going to take some real enthusiasm to break it through that range. I don't think it happens. So short term, maybe like the next week, still some more upside. But longer term, it's going to get stuck at that resistance level. Fear took a spike higher, and then it fails. We see it over and over again. I could do that same pattern going back the last 5 years, over and over again. Fear rallies, the VIX rallies, and then it fades after a few days, and we retest the lows. Will that happen this time? Probably, but maybe one of these days it's going to actually start to build some momentum to the upside. Until it does, I wouldn't worry too much about a correction. So my rating then, bullish long-term, neutral short-term for US stocks, the same for Canadian. Neutral on both time frames for gold. I do think it goes higher in the near term, but doesn't have great upside. Oil, neutral long-term. Bullish short-term, it's got maybe a little bit more upside until it hits resistance. Investors have shown some nervousness, and the buyers have been hesitant to push stocks higher. That's why we're in that sideways range with a lot of chop. The long-term upward trend remains intact, but short-term, the markets are heading sideways. Gold made some gains last week and likely has a little more upside short-term, but not that much. And oil also has limited upside. Let's look at the trade of the week. I bought this stock right in there. Why? Abnormal volume, abnormal price. Sometimes you get a quick payday. The next day, it made a huge gap up. I actually sold it on the gap. It retraced, and now it looks like it may even go still higher. That is EKSO, a nice swing trade using my action breaks strategy. Well, that has been the Stock Scores Market Minutes for November 20th, 2017. Have a great week in the market. Trade well.